Hello, my name is Andrew Hirsch, and I've been a LGBTQ activist for over 42 years. And I've done that here in Rochester, in Washington, D.C., and several cities in California. I've probably had, four different activist presidencies, several board of directors, and like I said, I've probably been an activist in 6 or 8 different cities. But it all started here in Rochester when I had just graduated from RIT. And I like the theme this year that we talk about what is your Stonewall, because my personal Stonewall was Stonewall. And I remember that day late in June, I was at my parents' house reading the New York Times before going off to be a junior in high school. And there on the front page, below the fold, was the article about the riots at the bar. And I had known my own orientation since I was old enough to think. I mean, I can't ever remember not being gay. So, of course, when I read about the article, it meant a lot to me. And my parents were always civic, community, political activists. So I'm only child, so I grew up with mom and dad going out to a rally or doing this. And my mom was the confidential secretary for a local county legislator. And when Audrey ran for re-election, my mom would always help. And I started doing the things that 14-year-olds do in politics, folding flyers, looking envelopes, looking stamps. So I come to Rochester, go through RIT, and my last year at RIT, when my parents came to visit me, by then I had a whole bunch of gay friends that were sort of separate from the RIT community, and I didn't introduce them to anybody, and that bothered me. And I thought, this isn't right. So Thanksgiving of '76, I went home with my luggage on the floor of my parents' living room. I officially came out, and my parents looked at me and said, well, we sort of had that figured out. Parents know. And then when I went back to Rochester, or started to head back to Rochester on Sunday, my mother said to me, you've seemed so much more relaxed this weekend. Do you think that has anything to do with what you told us Wednesday night? Obviously. So I got involved in Rochester. I got to know people. My parents came to visit. I introduced them. And I was asked to be on the board of the Gay Alliance of the Genesee Valley. And because I was an activist sort of type, my parents were sort of classic Democrat liberals back then. Not what some of us would call not what some of us would call a red diaper baby, but they were liberal. And I got involved, and I stayed involved. I ended up, after I left Rochester, I went to Washington, D.C., and I ended up being president of the Gay Activist Alliance. I was involved with the creation of the first 501c3 organization with the word gay in the title. I was involved with the first laying of a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier with the word gay in the wreath. And I was involved with the famous $10 million bus posters. We had these posters made up that said, someone in your life is gay. And the graphic of the poster were gay people and gay couples, lesbian couples. And it was like a hand putting the photograph like on a family album. So it looked like a family picture album. And it said, someone in your life is gay. And the bus agency wouldn't put it up in the truck, on the buses. So we sued, and we won very easily. And we sued for $10 million. And you always compromise when you win. So they had changed the shape of the posters in the bus by then. So the payment they had to make was they had to reprint the poster to match the new architectural format of the poster. And sometimes God works in funny ways. So when the Someone in Your Life is Gay bus poster appeared on several 100 Washington, D.C. buses. It turned out to be the same weekend as the first fundamentalist march in Washington. So they had Someone in Your Life is Gay family bus posters in the buses for the first fundamentalist march. So for those of you who don't think God, has a sense of humor, I just think that was great. So I guess that's sort of a summary of my Stonewall. I stayed in a public policy sort of jobs. The roughest part for me personally was the early AIDS years. Because I'm an activist, I wanted to be out in the street with ACT UP. But at that point, I was a senior analyst for the Los Angeles City Council. And I was doing environment, air pollution, budget stuff. And I asked my boss, could I do the early AIDS work? It was my way of helping out. But, since I was a staffer for the council, I didn't think it would be right to be out in the streets. So that was a difficult period for me. And I tried to use my professional work to contribute. And I've stayed an activist, though I have to say personally over the years, I left the Democratic Party in '92. I left the Republican Party 2 years ago. That was a tough period. And I'm an active conservative today. So I've been in all three major parties. And I'll close with this. I don't think my understanding or my goal for the top of the mountain has changed one iota. My path getting there is completely different. But I don't think my goal for a just society is one bit different. So I can sit here and I can report that, my Stonewall, even though I was 20 some miles out in the suburbs, was Stonewall. And my activism started here in Rochester, and it's carried with me my whole life. So with that, I'd like to thank Jeremy for this chance to talk, and everybody have fun at Pride, and getting involved is good. It's no matter what you get involved for, you don't have to agree with me, you don't have to disagree with me, but getting involved, that's a very Jewish heritage. Get involved, do something, and work to make the world better.